Hey guys, gals, anyone interested in the shop? Just a quick little thing. Ducked in the shop after work tonight. It's 23 degrees outside. It's New York. It's finally winter temperature. Thankfully, they've come. For all those who are enjoying this warm weather, I say it's. I don't quite agree. I like the cold, and this time of year, it's supposed to be cold, and it's a statement as to how messed up the environment is that it has not been this cold. Regardless, let's not get into environmental politics. Let's talk about insulating the shop. So as I said, it's 23 degrees outside, and here on the dust collector, where I suppose it belongs, is my thermometer in the shop, which though in this mode the camera never focuses on it, it's hovering at about 50 degrees. Maybe it's 49 and a half, but it's right there at 50 degrees. So it's not boiling hot in here, but it's comfortable. It's fine. This is what I have as a heater. Nothing fancy. It's currently set to low, and then the temperature is set to max. There's no fan in here, so I don't understand what the low, medium, high means. I understand the temperature set to max means maybe it turns the power on and off. I'll be honest, I don't know. I set this up over the weekend. It was on high, on max, cranking to keep some waterproofing warm, and I had stacked next to it. And then once that was done, I turned it back down, and it was probably in the 40s outside when I did that, and it brought the temperature in here up into the 60s. But since then, I've turned it down to low, and the temperature has collapsed. So I think that for what it is, it's not a very big unit, and it's doing a damn fine job of keeping the shop warm, especially considering that that's the garage door. It's got a thin layer of insulation, but nothing fancy. It's gasketed poorly, and you can't see from here, but right about there, there's a tear in the gasketing, and there's a spot about yay big, airflow in and out. So how does it stay warm? Well, it's the fact that the shop is properly insulated. I have to still do the header, but that's not been done because of clearance for the doorway. But you look at above the header, you can see there is the base layer of insulation, and the wall's built up, and there's a second layer of insulation. And all this insulation is air sealed. So what I've got there is R40 and airtight. There's very little thermal bridging because of the way the whole thing is constructed. And that's about it. I've got OSB on the walls, so you can't really tell. The only way you'd tell in the space is that the windows are a little bit deeper, and that's just trimmed out. One thing it does get me is I can cheat here and win this recess for my miter saw. And that's just half-inch foil-faced insulation there. So I went down very low, from my opinion. Half-inch is only giving me about R4. But again, it's air-sealed, and the fact that it's the foil-faced means it's a complete air barrier. Reflective, adds a little light. It's a nice effect, but mostly it's the air barrier that I was going for with the foil-face there. Down on the floor, I have 2-inch extruded polystyrene, which off the top of my head, I want to say is an R value of about 8, maybe? I'm not sure. I know my polyiso R values. I don't know my extruded polystyrene R values. But this, again, you can see the caulking in that little trough. It's a grooved panel that has little recesses, like a little rabbit along the edge. And I've installed them with the rabbits facing up, and I've caulked between them so it creates an airtight barrier. Now, I don't have moisture wicking through the floor. My floor is very dry, so I didn't go with an actual barrier there. And here, this gap here where you see the concrete, I don't know if you can see in the lumber rack, way up at the top, way up, there's my finger, right up there is some 2x10. And that 2x10 has been acclimating in the shop now for a couple of years, and it's going to get installed over here and act as a ramp. So I have to extend this 3/4 inch OSB over the edge and then make the ramp down. So that's how that's not finished. But most of the floor is that continuous insulation. You'll notice there's no sleepers. It's all insulation because I went with, I think it's 80 PSI. It's a commercial grade, and it was the heaviest PSI we had in stock at the time. And then these are just fastened with Tapcons right through it. And I put, this thing weighs quite a bit. So does that thing. This one's not so big, but it's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's 3/4 inch OSB over high-density extruded polystyrene. So you don't need sleepers unless you're going to drive a car in it. And even that, I might be able to get away with once or twice. And that's it. That back wall is only insulated to R20 because I plan to move it This wall here into the house, if I'm lucky, it's like R3 or R4 fiberglass. And the ceiling has no insulation. It's air sealed, but there's no insulation. So the heat loss through the ceiling is still tremendous. So I guess let me sum this all up. 23 degrees outside, 50 degrees inside. Some problems, some things done well. That small little heater, R40 walls, R8 floor, air sealed. I guess if I had to make any point, it would be air seal. My second point would be don't compromise. It's your shop. It should be comfortable. I hear so many stories. Oh, it's so too cold to work in the shop. I'm sorry. Invest the time in the shop. I know I want to make things too, but I sunk all this time and effort and money into the shop so it would be a usable space to use. So hopefully that's motivating in some way or interesting or helpful. I don't know. But I like sharing that stuff. So any questions about how to insulate the shop or keep it warm, let me know. Until then, get in the shop, turn the heater on, and make something.